Buenvenidos. Welcome to Molé Mama Cooking with Love. We drive connection, unity, acceptance, and love across all cultures and generations. And I want to be very clear that all are welcome here, and we are delighted and grateful to have you listening. You're about to join us for our weekly adventure where we chat with entrepreneurs and chefs and foodies, artists and nutritionists who are helping us to connect and learn. We'd love for you to visit our YouTube channel where you can learn to make delicious guacamole, chimichangas, molcajetes de queso, chorizo fundido, crunchy tacos, enchiladas, flour tortillas, and so much more. And I have to tell you that I absolutely love when our listeners reach out to me privately because they have a question about a recipe. A couple weeks ago, I had a woman reach out from Croatia who made my mom's crunchy tacos, and it was so fun to help her because she did not have corn tortillas in that country. So we did them with flour, and her family loved them. So please, if you try any of those recipes, just reach out. I'm here to help you make those successful. And it is delight, just pure joy for me to actually see my mom's recipes that I grew up with in other people's homes and know that they're enjoying them too. I'd also love for you to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you'd like to hear more of, maybe guests that we should interview, topics that we should cover. I just want to hear more and learn more of what's going to help you to have more fun, to connect with food or any other way. So please reach out. And from Mother Teresa, spread love everywhere you go and let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. So that is the goal of all of our shows. And we have a very special guest tonight. The avocado is here to bring us joy and goodness and all kinds of yumminess. I have had an obsession with avocados my entire life. When I was thinking about this podcast and show, I was like, when did I first encounter an avocado? When did I decide that that was something I liked? And I actually couldn't come up with a time that I didn't. And now, for the first time in my life, I have an avocado tree in my backyard, a Haas avocado tree, which we'll be learning more about in a moment, why those are so great. And so I thought I need to do a show dedicated to avocados because they have been a huge part of my life and most likely will continue to do so. So we're going to talk tonight about recipes, tips for how to choose them. I'm going to share my mama's guacamole recipe, which is, in my opinion, of course, the best guacamole ever. And also just talk about other ways to use avocados. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun. And you might want to grab a snack or make sure that you have food nearby because this is going to make you hungry. Avocados, if you're a fan, and probably if you're listening, you are just one of those things that are just so delicious. They're hard not to love. So growing up, I grew up in Central California on the coast. And so we lived very close to Santa Barbara, California, where there were groves and groves of avocados. So my family always had access. We had other relatives that lived there, and they would just bring us boxes, basically. So we always had avocados, always. And my mother would use them on just about everything, tacos, burritos, on top of soups. And so it was just, as I mentioned earlier, it's always been part of my life, and it was something that I loved. And it wouldn't be uncommon back when I was young and now for me to grab a whole avocado, cut it in half, put a little bit of salt on it, and take a spoon and just scoop out the goodness. And I often can be found walking around in my kitchen if I haven't had time to grab lunch. It's my quick on-the-go lunch is a fresh avocado with a little salt. I just love that. And I also wanted to share before we got into the history of the avocado and the nutrients and all that good stuff that I once had very limited access to avocados, and that was so hard for me. Many years ago, I lived in Alaska for 3.5 years, and avocados have a time finding their way all the way up there. And when they do, they're not very great quality because I think they're picked very early on. And I just, it was really hard for me. I would come to visit my family in California and I would bring it this gigantic, like 96 quart ice chest full of fish for my family. And I would return with vegetables, primarily avocados. And so when I got to move back to California, I did 30 days of avocados. I ate them every single day. I was so very happy. So that's just a little story I wanted to share with you. Avocados have been around for a really long time. I did some research and they go back as far as 500 BC with the Aztecs in Mexico. And today, Mexico produces about 80% of the U.S. avocados that we are using here in our country. And that's according to a 2017 USDA report. So that's a lot of avocados we're consuming. And I also was trying to figure out when do we eat the most of our avocados, what time of year? And I guessed right. So there's this new podcast that I wanted to mention because I think you guys need to check it out. It's called Food Disruptors. And show number 6, they do a whole show on the history of avocados. It's really, really interesting. And so in that show, Teresa, who is one of the hosts of that show, told me through her podcast that the number one day of consumption of avocados in the country is not Cinco de Mayo or any other Mexican holiday, but Super Bowl Sunday. So I thought that was very, very interesting. They also talk about in that show Haas avocados. And if you're not familiar with them, they're my favorites. They're what I have in my backyard. And they're quite creamy and they have a bumpy skin. And they're higher in good fat content than other avocados out there. So that's why they're one of my favorites. And also, I found out on this same podcast that in 1989, we were eating about 1 pound of avocados in the U.S. per person. And now in 2019, we are up to approximately 7 pounds per person per year. That is a huge jump in consumption. And a lot of it has to do with the popularity of Mexican food and also all the amazing health nutrients that we find in avocados, which is pretty fantastic. So I'm living in San Diego now. The Fallbrook Avocado Festival is this weekend. So that, in full disclosure, is where I got the idea to do a show on avocados and the timing. So I'm like, oh, they're coming out. They're everywhere. And anyway, you might want to check out that podcast that I mentioned because you can get a lot more details about the history of the avocado, how long it's been around, and who some of the very famous people are and the reason why we have avocados in this country. So I found it all very, very interesting. So before I move into the health nutrients or health benefits, of avocados, I wanted to share Soul Food Salon, Dr. Jeannie Rosner, who's been on our show as well. She recently posted on Instagram the environmental working groups Dirty 12 and Clean 15. And the reason why I wanted to share this with you, and you don't have to take notes, you can go to her Instagram feed and she's got the complete list for you there. And the reason why this is important is that this is coming from an organization who is looking at from pesticides, what's in our environment, those foods that it's okay for us to not buy organic, and the ones that we really should try if we can, if they're available, affordable in our communities, that we should try to get organic. And at the very top of this year's list for the Clean 15 is avocados, which I think is fantastic. So It's something that we can buy. It does not have to be organic, and it's healthy for us. And I'm just going to go through this list fairly quickly because I think it's pretty important for us to understand, especially when we're feeding ourselves and feeding our families. So on the clean list, sweet corn is number 2. Number 3 is pineapples, then sweet peas. Number 5 is onions. Number 6 is papayas. 7 is eggplants. 8 is asparagus. 9 is kiwis. 10 is cabbage. 11 is cauliflower. 12 is cantaloupes. 13 is broccoli. 14 is mushrooms. And 15 is honeydew melons. And on the dirty list, so those are those things that those fruits and vegetables that you should really try and get organic. And unfortunately, some of the things that many of us really love and are, being touted as very, very good for us from a health perspective are now showing up on the dirty list. And I believe the number 1 thing has been there for 4 years now is strawberries. Next is spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, and potatoes. So again, you don't have to take notes. Just go over to Soul Food Salon on Instagram and check out those lists. But I wanted to share because avocados, like I said, top of the clean list. So amazing. And then I also went over to WebMD and found, why are they so good for us? So, they're good they have the good fat for us. They also have 20 vitamins and minerals in every single serving, including potassium, which helps control our blood pressure, lutein, which is good for our eyes, and folate, which is crucial for cell repair. They're a good source of vitamin B, and they help fight off disease and infection, and they also give us vitamin C and E. And so they're low in sugar, they contain fiber, they definitely help you feel full longer. I know that that's one of the reasons why I love eating them for breakfast, is that often I have really long days, and lunch for me sometimes is really late. So having avocados in the morning breakfast will keep me full for a long time and hopefully keep me from getting too grumpy while I'm on my calls for work. And then also, as I mentioned, they're high in fat, but they're high in monosaturated fat, which is a good fat that helps lower our bad cholesterol, as long as you eat them in moderation. So I couldn't really find anything about what moderation is. I hope that I'm still falling within those categories of being within moderation, but I'm not so sure. So I wanted to move into how do you pick them? How do you prepare them? How do you store them? And, I am so excited because I have trained my husband to pick fantastic avocados for me. It's taken me a while. And, I joke around with him that he's gotten his Mexican avocado stripes because he can go to the store and pick out the best avocados. And he's also amazing because when we do have parties and I'm making a lot of guacamole, he'll go to more than one store if he can't find the right avocados. They don't feel the right way or they don't look the right way. He's gone, I think, up to 4 different stores before to come home with the exact number that I asked for. So he is a great avocado shopper. But when you go shopping for avocados, I know that, there's all these, not a lot, but there are methods to ripen them and to ripen them quickly by putting them in a paper bag. But usually if I'm doing a party, I like to try to find ripe ones if at all possible. So if you are looking for a ripe one, what you want to be able to do is when you touch the avocado, you can push into it just a little bit, not all the way through, and it's not rock solid. But that is really going to help you. That is a sweet spot for where an avocado is ripe. And I was also trying to think about it, but if you put your finger up to your face and you put your tongue in your cheek, and it's just you can kind of feel your tongue a little bit, but you can press a little bit. It's kind of that kind of feeling But I was able to train my hubby. I have it on my YouTube channel, on my guacamole recipe, specifically showing you the visuals, showing the avocado of how I do this little test. But it really does work. Because when you're going to be using them, in guacamole, or you're just going to be slicing them and using them on a garnish or on toast or something else, you don't want them to be really stringy, and you don't want them to be black and overripe because there is bitterness there. So that's just something that you want to try and avoid if at all possible. And the other thing is that because I'm living in a warmer climate now, my friend Jackie Puerta, I didn't even know you could do this. She told me, she lives in New Jersey, that you can put them in the refrigerator and extend their life. And I did not know that for years. This is just something I've known the last couple of years, which, given the number that I eat, and maybe I eat them so quickly that I usually go bad, but you can put them in the refrigerator, and they can last quite a good long while in there, which is fantastic. So that's also a way to just get them to last a little bit longer. And when you do buy them, if you are going to be making guacamole, I always recommend getting a little bit more than you actually need for your recipe. And I'm going to go into my guacamole recipe in a little while, but you might want to have extras on hand, and I'm going to tell you why. We are going to take a really short break, and we're going to be back in a minute, and I'm going to be telling you more about avocados, recipes for avocados, and delightful ways to enjoy them. Welcome back. We're talking about avocados, one of my very favorite fruits. I forgot to mention earlier in the show that it's a fruit. It's not a vegetable. So we're going to talk. I'm going to be sharing some recipes in a moment, but we were talking about in the first segment about the dirty and the clean list for fruits and vegetables that just came out in 2019. So I just want to make sure that our listeners understand that the dirty list is the list of fruits and vegetables that have pesticides that you should really try, if available, to find organically. And the clean list is the list of fruits and vegetables that it's okay to not buy organic, and they're still going to be okay for you. And the best spot, my dear friend Jenny, Dr. Jenny Rosner, listed them on her Instagram feed, and you can go to Soul Food Salon on Instagram or to her website, soulfoodsalon.com, and find the complete list that I shared with the first half of the show. But it really, I think, helpful, especially if you're trying to eat healthy, to make sure that you're getting fruits and vegetables that don't have pesticide residue in them. So I was starting to share before we went on break about guacamole. Guacamole is probably one of my all-time favorite foods, snacks, desserts. And my mama's, in my mind, is the best. And I have her recipe on my YouTube channel. And I just remember her making it so many times. And she would mix it all up and make it. And then I remember she would always take a huge bite, usually with a chip, to see how it paired up. And just seeing the look of joy on her face when she tasted it, it was so good. And I know that now that she's gone, I still follow that tradition where I make guacamole and then I take a chip and I take a scoop and I put it in my mouth, and sometimes I'll even, say, "Oh, Mom, you would love this. It's so good. The avocados are so creamy and so delicious." But anyway, I hope that you will try my mama's guacamole recipe. And I also mentioned earlier in the show that if you are going to make guacamole, to get a few extra avocados. And here's why. So one of the things is that when you're cooking with guacamole or making the guacamole recipe, most of them call for lime. And oftentimes Limes, it's hard unless the recipe specifically says use 2 teaspoons or, a quarter cup, whatever it is, how much juice they have in them. And once you over lime your guacamole, there's no way to get back unless you put more avocados in it. So I always have extras on hand for that reason. And also, my mama used to always say that guacamole only has real ingredients. It does not have mayonnaise. It does not have sour cream. It does not go in a Cuisinart. So those are just things that my mom would always say. It's all real food. And by real food, I mean that it is avocados, tomatoes, cilantro, onion, limes, jalapeno chilies, and serrano chilies, and salt. So those are the ingredients that go into my mama's recipe. And the recipe, like I said, is on my YouTube channel, so you can get specifics. But what I like to do when I make it is I take everything but the avocados and chop them first. And I dice them really, really small. So the onion, the cilantro, the chili peppers that I mentioned, the serranos and the jalapenos, and the tomatoes. And I chop all of that really fine and I put it in a bowl and I squeeze a little bit of fresh lime juice on it and I set it aside. And then in a separate bowl is where I will prepare my avocados. Now, we talked during the first segment of the show about picking really ripe, wonderful avocados, or maybe you've had to ripen them a little bit at home, but you slice them right down the middle, and then you'll find the pit in the middle, and you take that out, and you can just take a spoon and scoop it out. Scoop out the avocado into a bowl, and I do that. And then I use a potato smasher and I smash up my avocados after I add in some more lime juice. And, some folks do all kinds of amazing things, but I just use a potato smasher. That works really well. I actually still have my mom's. So I like doing that. The other thing that you can do if you want to have a lot of fun and if you have guests coming over is you can take your avocados that I mentioned, and like they do at fancy restaurants and charge you a fortune for, is actually just put them into a molcajete. And that is a Mexican pestle and mortar that's made out of volcanic rock, and smash them up. And then you can add in those other ingredients that you've already chopped up finely and just mix it and then serve it out of your guacamole. So it will look really pretty and it's yummy. And so super easy to make guacamole. And I usually like to make it in advance of a party that I'm going to have. I have made it as early as 12 hours before a party that I'm going to have. And here's the key, you don't want your guacamole to turn black, right? It's not attractive. It is a little bit bitter, but it's really not attractive. And avocados, their nemesis is air. So once you get air, especially into guacamole that's been smashed up, it's going to turn, that's why it turns black. And so what you want to do is if you're going to make your guacamole in advance, you store it in a bowl. I like to usually use a glass bowl or a plastic bowl that has a lid to it. And you layer in saran wrap. So you would fill up your bowl with guacamole, and then you put plastic wrap on it, and you squeeze all the air out of it. And then you put the lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. And that is going to keep your guacamole fresh. It's also a way to store your guacamole after you've made it or after you've had a party, to also keep it looking fresh. And if it does get black just a little bit, you can scoop the top of it off, and it's going to be good for a few days. You'll be able to tell when it's gone bad, but you'll be able to use it. Mine usually doesn't last that long because I have people around that will eat it, including myself. But that's just a couple of tips for you. And then the other thing, as far as pairing your guacamole, my favorite chips to serve guacamole with are lime chips. Gives them a lime corn chips, gives it an amazing combination flavor. And if you're trying to not do chips or do something on the lighter side, one of my cousins, my smart young cousins recently, Marielle, I was doing an event and I couldn't serve chips with guacamole, and she suggested endive. And so it was a great combination to put guacamole in an endive and serve that as an appetizer. People loved it. I've also used jicama and I've also used carrots. So those are just a couple of different options for your guacamole. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that when you're actually serving it, if you have a party, I would just pull out a little bit at a time so that it doesn't turn black, because if it sits on your counter or on your table, if you're entertaining, it will turn black. And put a spoon in it so that people don't double dip. So they'll put it on a little plate or something. It's just something that I do. And I did see that we do have a question in the live chat room from one of our listeners about the pesticides. And on the question from Maria was about the pesticides bypassing the skin, and they do on some of the fruits and vegetables on the list. But once again, avocados are on the top of the clean list, so they're okay. The pesticides don't get into them. They're still in 2019, so they are okay to buy non-organic. So I hope that helped you, Maria. All right, so what do I put guacamole on in addition to serving it with chips or putting on endive? Of course, we put it in tacos. I've even put it on top of potato salad. It's kind of good. And I have put it on the top of beans. I put it inside burritos, of course, and just about anything I can think of or, feel like eating, I've tried guacamole on at some point. So the other thing that I do with avocados is I happen to use them a ton as a garnish. So I will use them on lots of different soups. This is something that I learned from my mother. And so we would put my 9 peppers, spicy chicken soup, putting fresh sliced avocados on that soup, or any chicken soup or a beef stock soup. So as long as it's a non-creamy soup, is really a good add. And you just serve a bowl of it and just garnish it, and it just gives things an amazing flavor, an amazing pop. And as I was mentioning earlier about taking your avocado and slicing it in half and scooping it out when you're going to make guacamole, it's really easy to actually, when you're going to be using an avocado as a garnish, so you want it to have cubes, is to just cut your avocado in half. Make sure that the pit's out, and then you just take a knife, like if you're holding the avocado in one hand, and you just, with a small knife, I wouldn't use a huge knife, and you just slice it and cube it inside the shell of the avocado, and then you can just scoop it out. When you scoop it out, it's already cut up in little pieces, so it's a time saver. And you can do the same thing if you're going to use your garnish as slices. And you'll often see that, on different magazines or Instagram or Facebook photos, as you see these beautiful slices of avocados. And that's how everybody's doing it. They're just doing it while it's still sitting in the peel. And so they just slice it and pull it out with a spoon, and it comes out and looks amazing. Also, avocados, of course, are amazing on nachos. So if you're making any kinds of nachos, it's fantastic to add that as one of your last fresh ingredients on top of nachos after you've melted the cheese. And I like to use it when I make my carne asada nachos. So, grilling carne asada, and then if I have beans and tomatoes and onions and fresh cilantro and maybe some jalapenos and serrano peppers, and then you just put some avocado on it, and it's so delicious and so yummy. And I forgot to mention one of my favorite soups that I like to put avocados on, and that is any kind of seafood soup. Again, a brothy soup. And actually, if you're going to use it on any kind of seafood soup, using avocados with mango is a really good combination. Like the sweetness of a mango along with an avocado. You can also do that with salads, and it just makes it delicious and amazing. And I also really like to make taco salads. Taco salads are one of my favorite things to make, and I often will do those during the week. And maybe I've made my crunchy tacos on the weekends and I have some leftover ground beef, or you can do it with ground turkey, you can do it with chicken. But basically, what goes into a taco salad is, if you want, you can use chips. You don't have to use chips. Any kind of greens that you want to use. I like to usually use a lettuce of some sort. I really love butter lettuce. I like romaine. I've been known to use kale in my taco salads, tomatoes, carrots, cilantro, onions, pretty much anything I have in my refrigerator, including whatever protein I have, as I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, I have to add cheese because I'm Molé Mama and I love my cheese. And then avocados. So putting some avocados on that is delicious. And another thing that I like to use avocado on is tostadas. I don't know if we've talked about tostadas very often, but tostadas are also like one of those quick and easy meals that you can make with anything, with any leftover that you have, with anything that's fresh. But you can use, I've used leftover chicken on them, leftover beans, I've used grilled veggies, again, just a bunch of different types of vegetables. Mine, of course, are going to have cheese on them. Like I mentioned, I have an obsession with cheese. But you put some avocado on that and some salsa, and that is amazing. And you can buy tostadas at lots of different supermarkets. They're always at Mexican markets, and they keep for a really long time in your pantries. So there's something that you can have around, and easily somebody drops by or somebody is hungry and you don't have anything already made, something that you can easily whip up, and people usually love them. Like I said, super, super easy and so delicious and great snack or a lunch or dinner. So one of the things that we haven't talked about, and it is just a craze, it's been a craze now for several years, but it continues to be a craze, is avocado toast. And I also did some research on avocado toast, and it has been around for 100 years, according to some research that I did. It's been something that people in the United States have been doing a long time, is avocado with their toast. And I was surprised to learn that because, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I grew up eating avocados, with just about everything, but we never had them on toast. We definitely put them in sandwiches, but never just by themselves on toast. And I definitely jumped into the craze a few years ago. So I thought that I would share with all of you some of my favorite recipes for avocado toast. And definitely I prefer adding a little something to the avocados. So I'm not a plain avocado toast girl. I love whole wheat bread. And there's David's grain bread, 7-grain bread that I absolutely love. It's got a lot of different nuts in it. It's just really crunchy. And I like to toast that. And then I like to put my avocado on the toast. And I love to use tomato slices with it. I also like to add a little tiny bit of salt. And I like spicy food. So dried pepper flakes are something else that I like to add, as well as fresh basil. So that is my favorite all-time type of avocado toast. I have been known, of course, to basically put some cheese on some bread and a little bit of avocado on top of that. And I don't know if that's really toast anymore. It's probably an open-faced sandwich at that point, but also delicious. But it really does fill you up, just the avocado toast itself. And I actually had that today for breakfast, was the one I was talking about with the fresh basil and the tomatoes and the avocado. And it's amazing at how many people have tried it for the first time in my house and been like, this is a thing. And I'm like, this is a thing. And it's just really an amazing snack. So if you haven't tried it yet, you really should. It is a great way to eat avocados. And as I mentioned, it's very, very filling. So it just keeps you full for a good long while. And I just absolutely love the combination of flavors in avocado toast. So that's one way. The other thing I do occasionally like to have it on sourdough bread as well. Probably not as healthy as the whole wheat, but again, really fun, wonderful treat. And oftentimes I will do an avocado toast with a poached egg on the side. Again, more protein, but also delightful combination of flavors that is good for us. So another way to try that. And so I hope you guys try avocado toast if you haven't already. And if you have, I would love to hear from you guys on how you're doing your avocado toast. I know that I've seen some pictures on Instagram that are quite inspiring. If you're trying any other types of vegetables with it, I am still using tomatoes and basil. I haven't really gone much further than that. And the other thing I've been known to do is to just have tomatoes and avocados chopped up together and eat that in a bowl for breakfast sometimes. And of course, having a quesadilla. So doing a corn tortilla with maybe some pepper jack, and then doing sliced avocados on top of my quesadilla, and then an egg and maybe some tomatoes and some salsa. That's really good too. And, the other thing, of course, we've been talking about, the different things that you can put avocados on, and I brought it up briefly, but avocados and eggs are a really good combination. So if you're doing any kind of omelet, either sticking it inside the omelet or using it as a garnish on top will always add flavor, and it's delicious. And it's also good on, inside soft tacos, crunchy tacos, any kind of taco that you're making. You can do slices or cubes, but fantastic combination of flavors when you're using it with tortillas. So I'm hoping that you guys will be inspired to go out and find some avocados this weekend and maybe give them a try. And like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions about any of the recipes or ideas that I've mentioned as far as how you can use avocados, that you'll reach out with those questions, and I'd have been more than happy to help you. And I just wanted to share, briefly that for me, avocados are super healthy for us. So they're good for us. But they also are so very, very good. And I just have so many great memories of eating guacamole with my mom and eating it with my various primas and primos. And I was visiting them this weekend, and I was staying with my dear cousin Carmen. And, we were having a little party on Sunday, and it was really nice. A bunch of people were coming over. And she said, the only thing you need to do is for the party is make guacamole. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Happy to make guacamole. What do you need? And she literally pulled out this box. They had bought a box. I think it was like 36 avocados in there. So it was really, really cute. And I made a lot of guacamole for that party. So it was really, really fun. But it makes my heart really happy to know that others are enjoying my mom's guacamole recipe. And it is a gatherer. It does connect us. There's something about guacamole and eating it with others. It's just so incredibly fun. So Again, go over to my YouTube channel, give it a try, and make sure, I think the recipe that I have on there calls for 4 to 5 medium avocados, but make sure that you get a couple of extras because like I mentioned earlier again, that depending on how juicy your limes are, if you over lime it, you won't be able to take it out. You just have to add in more avocados. So I hope that that works out for you guys. So I wanted to also just mention that, if you're going to be traveling with avocados or taking them anywhere, to make sure that you always try to store them in a cool place. They do not, once they're off of their trees, they do not like to be stored in direct sunlight unless you're trying to ripen them. So if you're traveling with them, make sure that they're in something cool and they're going to last a little bit longer for you. And also just be careful that they're not on the bottom of your shopping bag when you go grocery shopping for them, at the very, very bottom, because they can get squished depending on how ripe they are. And again, not always the best thing for them. So you want to just try to bathe them a little bit. They kind of deserve it. They're kind of awesome. They're definitely one of the reinas of the food groups, which is one of the queens, definitely of the higher order level of food. So we are going to take a short break. And when I get back, we're going to talk a little bit about avocado oil. And we're back, and we've been talking about one of my favorite all-time fruits, the aguacate. Can't believe I haven't said that in Spanish. Aguacate sounds so cool. The avocado, I absolutely love it. And the one last thing that I wanted to share with you tonight about the avocado is avocado oil. I have just started to use this. It's really great for high heat. So if you're going to fry anything, it's something worth giving a try. It has a little bit of a different taste, but I am loving it. And I'm sure that I will be back again talking about avocados sometime in the near future. And I will be happy to share how that's going with the avocado oil. But it's a very healthy alternative for us. And again, it works really great in high heat. I've used it recently. I was doing some pan-fried potatoes, and they came out really delicious with it. So anyway, you might want to give it a try. So I hope you've enjoyed all the information about the aguacate and different recipes, and I hope you'll try them. And I wanted to spend the next few minutes of our podcast with some really exciting news that has so much to do with all of you. So I wanted to make sure that I shared it firsthand. So very recently, I've been asked, was invited to join Turner Broadcasting's podcast network. So that is CNN. I think they have different sports. They have all the Turner Broadcasting channels, including the networks, the Cartoon Network. So anybody that's on Turner or CNN that has a podcast, I am now on that network. And if you've been listening, I know there's some of you that have been with me since the beginning, Renee, Maria, Liliana, others. This has been a 3.5-year journey for me. And of course, Day, who's my producer, and my amazing prima Eva. But when I first started doing radio, I cried for almost 6 months before every show because I was so scared. So to have come to a point with all of you, because you've been so encouraging, I've talked about that before, so incredibly kind, so encouraging, so incredibly supportive, to have been contacted by this group. And then I went through the process and was selected, and so it's pretty exciting. And also I found out after we went live that I was the first non-CNN, non-Turner talent that was asked to be invited basically to this network. So it's kind of a big deal. It's scary, of course. But it's really exciting too. And the way that they found me, because I was like, when I first talked to them, well, first of all, let me be honest, when they first reached out to me, I thought it was a scam. I'm like, who are you? And then when I, did a little bit of research and found out, yes, they were legit. And I spoke to them and answered all their questions. One of the things I asked was like, I'm pretty tiny. How did you possibly find me? And they said they had gone to Google and searched for Mexican podcasters, Mexican radio shows, because they were looking for people who are talking about Mexican food. So anyway, I don't know what the journey will hold, but I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to continue to be on 1-2 Radio, which is fantastic because I love you guys. And like I said, it's just been such a remarkable training, learning, supportive environment that I definitely want to continue here. And then it's just that my podcast is now it comes up on iTunes and Sketcher and Google Play, is being hosted by them and will be running commercial ads in it. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. So I wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, you guys, muchísimas gracias. So that's, thank you so very, very much. Because I wouldn't have stuck around if you guys hadn't made it easy. If you hadn't, like I said, been so supportive, seeing you guys in our live chat room, having you ask questions, engage, have fun has definitely helped me as I learned. And, I still have so very, very much to learn about this. But it has been, one of the best experiences of my life. And almost every show that I do, at the end of it, my face literally hurts from smiling. So there's not a lot of things in my life anyway that I do that at the end of it, I'm lit up and that my face literally hurts from smiling. So that is the gift that all of you have given me by, the weeks and the months that you've been listening. So I hope that our journey continues for quite some time together, but I just wanted to share my big news because it's kind of exciting. And I hope that you'll continue to listen. So anyway, muchas gracias. Que Dios te bendiga. So may God bless all of you listeners. And so again, thank you. And thanks so much to Ade, because really, oh my goodness, you guys have no idea how much he helps me out. He's in my ear. He's giving me clues. He's, just helping me, encouraging me. So he is my primo, also my cousin, and my beautiful prima, Eva, who has been on the show bunches of times and so much fun to talk to and has helped us find so many amazing guests. And I think, we just keep finding more and more amazing people to talk to. And in the next couple of months, we have some just amazing people that are going to be on the show. I'm super excited. We will have in a couple of weeks, Chef Ronaldo, who is also a Latin chef, and he has written a cookbook for people with diabetes. So I'm super excited about speaking to him and, learning more about diabetes is an epidemic, especially in the Latino community. So it'll be really great to learn more about alternatives and ways that we can still eat really yummy, delicious Mexican food that's also diabetes friendly. We will be having this amazing woman that started a company. It's called Viruna Seeds, and it's basically like a seasoning, but it's all different types of seeds, and it's really healthy for us, and it's a superfood. And she'll be here in I think she'll actually be here on the 25th of April later this month, so she'll be joining us. I also have been a huge fan of Mexico in My Kitchen. It's somebody I follow. It reminds me of growing up and food that my mother would make. And she's on Instagram, and she is going to be here, I believe, in May. And we have many others. So I hope that you will continue to tune in every week, because we are going to have lots of fun, lots of new recipe ideas, food for you guys to try out, ways for you to connect with food, and, just lots of love and sharing the enthusiasm and the inspiration. So I think that's the other thing that's been so remarkable about my journey is the people that I have met and that I've interviewed. I forgot to mention them. They're really important because they are so inspiring, and it is so much fun for me to talk to people who are basically on fire with what they're doing and how much they love it, and what they've been able to accomplish and how much joy it's brought to their life. So lots more coming your way in the coming months. So I hope that you will continue to listen as we get close to summer. And I hope you've enjoyed this show today. And I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for listening. Remember to add the most important ingredient to every recipe you make, your love. And as my mama always said to me as we said our goodbyes, que Dios te bendiga, may God bless you. Many thanks to my primo Ade, my producer. Thank you for tuning in to Molé Mama Cooking with Love.